Balancing realism and storytelling in movies has always been a tricky endeavor. Never let the truth get in the way of a good story is an oft-repeated aphorism, but a movie that ignores too much of the truth without justifying it with compelling results becomes an easy target for criticism. Fortunately, not every movie follows the creed of fun first, facts never. As this list will show, there have been plenty of films that have striven hard towards realism or authenticity, and in the process showed that it is possible for a movie to be both accurate and entertaining. So with that said, I am Gareth, this is What Culture, and here are 10 times movies did their research and nailed it. Number 10, The Lion King. The original Lion King is one of the greatest movies of all time, but as detailed by The Ringer's excellent retrospective, its creators had to jump through more than their fair share of hoops to create the cinematic landmark we all know and love today. With then producer Jeffrey Katzenberg telling the Lion King team that their movie was likely to not be a very big film, the staff engaged their inner Michael Jordan and took it personally. Fortunately for cinema fans everywhere, this meant that they left no stone unturned in their quest to create history, as well as taking trips to Kenya to capture Lion King's stunning savanna landscapes. The animators immersed themselves in their subject matter by having real lions brought into the studio. Not only that, but to ensure maximum connection with the animals, the lions were uncaged as well. Not sure what Disney's HR department made of that decision, but hey, there's no denying the result. As anyone who has seen the Lion King's still majestic landscapes and impressively lifelike animation will attest, the team's hard work paid off. In the aforementioned Ringer article, artistic supervisor Daniel St. Pierre says that they shot the movie as if it were live action instead of cartoon, resulting in a fusion of styles that has genuinely aged better than the soulless photorealism of the 2019 remake. Now I've got a question for you, is The Lion King the greatest Disney movie of all time? Well, if it's not, you let me know what is in the comment section down below. Number 9, The Martian. There's a moment in The Martian where protagonist Mark Watney bluntly states how he plans to survive on Mars. I'm gonna have to science the S word out of this. It's a great line as it not only encapsulates Watney's sense of humor and no-nonsense approach to survival, but also summarizes the film crew's attitude towards depicting Watney's life on Mars. The Martian may have been adapted from the Andy Weir book of the same name, but rather than simply relying on the science as depicted in Weir's novel, director Ridley Scott went the extra mile and corresponded with James Green, the then director of NASA's Planetary Sciences Division. As you'd imagine, Green was a huge help in ensuring the film remained as scientifically accurate as possible, and his observations actually made one of the film's key scenes even more spectacular. As detailed by Mental Floss, the storm that results in Mark Watney being stranded on Mars was originally meant to just be nothing more than wind and dust. James Green, however, pointed out that a dust storm that severe would likely result in lightning strikes as well, resulting in the studio adding lightning to the scene. Granted, Green also stated that Mars conjuring a dust storm that deadly is in itself unlikely. Yet the fact remains that following the former NASA director's advice made The Martian's opening set piece that much more dramatic. Number 8, Inside Out. One of the reasons Pixar has dominated animated films for the past 3 decades is the effort they put into researching the core concepts of the movies they work on. Case in point, Inside Out, which cognitive psychiatrist Jennifer Tallarico described as a surprisingly accurate representation of how memory works. Pixar worked with esteemed psychologist Paul Ekman to understand how to reflect the emotional state of an 11-year-old girl. University of Berkeley psychologist Daka Keltner also acted as a consultant on the movie, playing a crucial role in expanding Pixar's understanding of how sadness acts as an instigator in creating bonds with others. If you've seen Inside Out, then you'll know just how important a role sadness, the emotion, and the character plays in the movie, and it's thanks to Pixar's discussions with Ekman and Keltner that the movie was able to so expertly teach children not to hide from sadness, but accept it as a fundamental part of growing up. A lesson that will certainly come in handy when they're old enough to have their hearts broken by their favourite sports team. Signed, a Man United fan. Number 7. Contact. 1997's Contact is often heralded as one of the most scientifically accurate science fiction movies ever made, which makes sense when you consider it's based on the work of world-famous astronomer Carl Sagan. As explained by Entertainment Weekly, Sagan first had the idea for Contact in 1979, but was dismayed at Hollywood's attempts to mold his ideas into family-friendly fodder. Producer Peter Guber wanted the movie to be about a mum simultaneously trying to make contact with aliens and her estranged son. A trope that could only have been more hackneyed if the closing credits showed aliens dancing with the now reunited mother and son to Sister Sledge's We Are Family. Sagan instead published Contact as a science fiction novel, which the movie's creators treated as a bible for the film's production. The end result was a science fiction movie that put an unprecedented focus on the first half of that appellation. Jodie Foster's job as a SETI worker accurately reflects the work done by the Institute's search for extraterrestrial life, and the aliens' mathematics-based methods of communication were based on theories espoused by Sagan himself. Sagan would sadly not live to see Contact released in cinemas, but the movie's creators did an incredible job honoring his singular legacy. Number 6. Tora Tora Tora. 1970's Tora 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 offers an interesting contrast with the 2001 movie Pearl Harbor. Whereas both movies depict the events of Japan's infamous attack that brought the United States into World War II, the former movie portrays a far more realistic depiction of both the attack and the events leading up to it. The 2001 film is a typical Michael Bay production, more interested in visual spectacle and America oorah chest thumping than taking a considered approach to the material. This leads to some rather unfortunate historical inaccuracies, like suggesting Japan deliberately bombed Pearl Harbor's medical centers, which didn't happen, and that President Roosevelt was able to overcome his polio and stand up from his wheelchair through sheer patriotic fervor. Again, definitely didn't happen. Tora Tora Tora, on the other hand, offers a much more nuanced take on the events surrounding Pearl Harbor. As detailed by Daily History, the 1970 film does an excellent job depicting America and Japan's disintegrating relationship in the run-up to the attack, and the bombing itself is detailed in both accurate and spectacular fashion. Now, Tora 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 may not be for everyone, its first half certainly does drag a bit, but its devotion to accuracy does a better job of selling the horror and tragedy of the Pearl Harbor attack than Bay's more cartoonish effort. Cheers for checking out this video today, folks. Now smash that subscribe button down below for more of this well-researched awesomeness in your life. Number 5. A Night to Remember. Before there was Jack and Rose, there was Mr. and Mrs. Strauss. Although 1958's A Night to Remember has since been usurped by James Cameron's 1997 mega movie in the popular consciousness, it's actually the older film that acts as a more accurate portrayal of the last moments of the Titanic. To be fair, both films had very different objectives, didn't they? Whereas Cameron's film was primarily a love story that made full use of the mega-star wattage supplied by Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, A Night to Remember set out to be an accurate retelling of what occurred on April 15, 1912. To that end, A Night to Remember employed survivors of the tragedy as consultants on the set. As detailed in the enjoyable documentary that came out on the film's 35th anniversary, 4th Officer Joseph Boxall and the widow of 2nd Officer Charles Lightoller, who would ultimately become the film's main character, were on hand to discuss what actually occurred the night the Titanic sank. The insight of the survivors, combined with sets built on actual blueprints of the Titanic, resulted in a movie that masterfully captured the chaos, confusion, and heartbreak of history's most infamous naval tragedy. Number 4. Apollo 13. 1995's critically acclaimed Apollo 13 is often praised for its realism, which is no small wonder when you consider the steps Ron Howard and his merry film crew took to ensure their production remained as authentic as possible. As detailed by Sci-Fi, the crew behind Apollo 13 worked closely with NASA to recreate the environments of both the shuttle and the Mission Control Center that successfully guided the astronauts back to Earth. This meant copious amounts of photographs taken at the aforementioned center, as well as creating custom command and lunar modules for the movie. The latter was particularly impressive as, in order to emulate zero-gravity conditions, the movie's bespoke modules were fitted into NASA's Vomit Comet, a specialized airplane that could create a zero-G environment for the actors to float around in, albeit briefly. Naturally, the movie also worked closely with technical advisors from NASA NASA to ensure maximum authenticity. Amusingly, in addition to providing valuable input, the advisors also inadvertently highlighted the accuracy of the movie's set design. According to production designer Michael Korenblith, the mission control set was so accurate that NASA's advisors would frequently act as though they were back at NASA HQ, and automatically open the door to the men's room only to find a brick wall staring back at them. I mean, it's one thing to fool the public, but when you fool the people who were actually there, you know you've nailed your research. Number 3, All the President's Men. 1976's All the President's Men is a remarkable film. Remarkable for its unflinching look at the then recent Watergate scandal. Remarkable for the late Jason Robards' Oscar-winning performance as Washington Post editor Ben Bradlee. And remarkable for the fanatical level of devotion that went into recreating the Washington Post newsroom. As explained by the Post itself, production designer George Jenkins took his role extremely seriously. So seriously that he paid $10,000 to acquire 200 desks from the same company that the Post bought its desks from, asked for and received a brick taken from the main lobby of the Post to be replicated in fiberglass for the movie set, and asked for the Post's current staff to save their trash on their desks and send it to the movie studio, at the cost of $1 per box. Now this may seem a little bit over the top, but considering All the President's Men won an Oscar for Best Art Direction / Set Direction, it's safe to say Jenkins and his team were fully vindicated for every minute spent rifling through boxes of newsroom garbage. Number 2, Arrival. You may be wondering exactly how much scientific research was necessary for a film that appears to star gigantic versions of Half-Life's head crabs. As it turns out, that form of communication was one of the most praised elements of Arrival in the scientific community. In a conversation with Wired, Jessica Kuhn, an associate professor in the Department of Linguistics at McGill University and a consultant on the film, said that the movie's depiction of translating an alien language was as realistic as it could be. In the movie, Amy Adams' scientist character mimics simple words to the aliens, who in turn draw pictures called logograms, which Adams has to interpret the patterns of. It's a slow, painstaking process which, as anyone who's ever tried learning a language will tell you, is par for the course. The movie also invokes an extreme version of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, which dictates that language affects our view of the world, as Adams' character is able to see through time as a result of her eventual fluency in the alien's language. Naturally, that's a somewhat extreme example of the hypothesis, but it is true that learning another culture's language can generate greater empathy. Number 1, Downfall. 2004's Downfall may be best known for the many parodies of Hitler's iconic breakdown in the bunker, but it deserves to be remembered as a great film in its own right. The movie acts as a glimpse into the final days of Adolf Hitler, and as such is held together by Bruno Gantz's magnetic performance as the embittered, broken-down dictator. As detailed by historian James Rogers on History Hit, Gantz's portrayal is so mesmerizing because of the lens the Swiss-born actor took to immerse himself in the dictator's mindset at the time. The actor was given access to recordings taken from the bunker in which Hitler spent his final days, which led to Gantz uncovering a disarmingly human side to history's greatest villain. Rather than a towering force of nature, Downfall's Hitler is a shaking, weakened old man, who is disarmingly capable of kindness to those close to him. As the much-memed rant scene shows, Bruno Gantz was more than capable of depicting the towering fury that cowed Hitler's subordinates and marched his nation and the world towards disaster. Yet it is the actor's dedication to capturing Hitler the man, rather than the crazed Führer of popular culture, that ensures his performance still remains iconic a whole 2 decades later.